Good morning, students. So today is our first class of BA Pass program, and subject is Foundation of Psychology. So we will start from the block one, and block one is psychology, what it is, and the lesson one of block one is Introduction to Psychology. So first we see the structure of the course. If we see the structure of the course, you can see there are 5 blocks. And first one is psychology, what it is. Second is perception, learning, and memory. Third is motivation and emotion. Fourth is personality and intelligence. And five is your guidelines for the practical. So if we move towards block one and the unit one of block one, which is introduction to psychology, in which we study about the basic introduction to psychology, the basic about the psychology. So if we will see the definition of psychology, and if you see the word psychology, the word psychology has its origin in 2 Greek words, psycho plus logos. ठीक है, तो psychology is the combination of psyche plus logos, and the word psycho in Greek language refers to soul, and the logos refers to study. So it becomes study of the soul. So first psychology was introduced as the study of the soul. Okay, but now that after it, the researchers, the psychologists say, okay, how can you study the soul? Have you seen the soul? Though when you have not seen the soul, then how one can study the soul? So it was changed from study of the soul. So today's today's word, in today's time, the most accepted definition of psychology is the science of behavior and mental processes. So what is definition? Psychology is the science of behavior and mental processes. If you see the definition, there are 3 parts of this definition. Psychology is the science of behavior and mental processes. So now we will discuss the 3 parts of this definition so that you can better understand what is psychology. So firstly, psychology is a science. Why psychology is a science? First, because it systematically tries to gather data by carefully observing and recording events or behavior of human and animals. So, like science is a systematic study, similarly, psychology is also a systematic study, is a step-by-step study which tries to gather data by carefully observing and recording events or behavior of human and animals, and under controlled experimental condition. Like as in science, we do the experiment. Similarly, in psychology, okay, we observe the behavior of human and animals under controlled experimental condition. So we can say that psychology is a science. Now, secondly, the term behavior. In this definition, when we are talking of the behavior, we means overt action and reaction. So whatever the animals or humans do that is of interest can be recorded, such as actions, thoughts, emotions, attitude, etc. So whatever the behavior is shown by the animals or humans, like what they are doing, what they are thinking, what are their emotions and their attitudes, this is behavior. So the overt actions and reactions. Overt means which we can observe them while doing that. Okay. So the third term of the definition is mental processes. So mental processes, when we are talking about the mental processes, means we are talking about our internal process which are going in our mind. okay, which you cannot see, but still they are going in our mind, such as thinking, okay, feeling, remembering. You cannot show others what you are thinking, but you are thinking on something. You are feeling something. You are remembering something. So you cannot show others, but these are the processes. These are the process which goes in your mind. Perception, problem solving. So, Morgan has also said that it is a science that seeks to understand and predict human and animal behavior. So, what is psychology? It is a science that seeks to understand and predict human behavior. Now, we should try to understand about origin and development of psychology. So we have learned about the definition of psychology. Now we will see how the psychology origin and what about the development of psychology. So if we talk about the very beginning, psychology was a part of philosophy. So it moved away from philosophy and become an independent discipline approximately 138 years ago. So, Herman Ebbinghaus has made remark that psychology has a short history but a very long past. So, various Greek philosophers has wrought on the human nature, has wrought on the human mind, and now this is the part of the psychology. Okay, such as Plato, Aristotle, they all have discussion about the soul. They all have said many things about the soul. So now after it, a German physiologist, William Wundt, he started the first lab in the Leipzig, which is in Germany, in 1879. So what he attempted to apply some scientific principle to study the human mind, and which he referred to as objective introspection. What is introspection? To look into yourself. Okay, when we try to look into ourselves to see out to see what problem we are facing and to see about ourselves, to know about ourselves, then this is introspection. So he applies some scientific principles to study the human mind, and he referred to as objective introspection. Objective matlab without any biasness, okay, which is purely objective. Okay, so he started the first lab. Now, after it, 1883 in USA, a very formal psychology lab was set up by the student of William Wood, whose name was Stanley Hall in John Hopkins University. And then a very famous, very prestigious American Psychological Association started in 1892, and Hall becomes its first president. After it, William James, who was a very famous psychologist, wrote the first textbook on psychology known as The Principles of Psychology. And the principal psychologists in the beginning had an empirical approach to understand thinking, attention, imaginary, and the experiments were done by them to study the mind and mental processes. And gradually, different schools of thoughts came up with different viewpoints, with different perspective about the nature of the study of the psychology, that how psychology should be studied. So different psychologists has come up with different type of a school, or we can say with different type of viewpoints or perspective. So now we will study the major schools of psychology. So first one is structuralism. It was an early school of psychology, and the structuralists established that, as the name is suggesting, is structuralism. So they established that psychology is the study of the structure of mind and the consciousness. What is consciousness? What your awareness. So they said They said the study of the structure of mind and consciousness, it is very important to study them, and the method used by them to understand the structure of the mind and the conscious process was introspection. Through introspection, the subject used to describe his conscious experiences. Like introspection, we have discussed now. What is introspection? To look into yourself. Okay. So introspection, though, and the subject used to describe his conscious experiences, and the first psychological laboratory, which was established by William Wundt, he was also an structuralist. Okay, so this was structuralism, but this was a major school of psychology at that time. But when the new psychologists came, they opposed the idea of structuralism. They said we cannot study the whole psychology by only study the structure of the mind and the consciousness. So then came functionalism. Now, as the structuralist people focus on the structure of the mind, they focus on the functions of the mind. So, and this theory was very strongly influenced by Darwin's theory of natural selection. And the focus of the study was function of mind and behavior, like what the mind is doing, the functions, how the person is showing the behavior, like learning, memory, problem solving, thinking, motivation. So the credit goes to John Dewey, who developed functionalism, focusing on what the mind behavior do and how they enable a person to adapt to new and complex situations. William James was also the main contributor, was concerned on how the mind allows people to function in the real world. That means how we are functioning, how the mind is allowing us that we are functioning. All the process which we are doing, if we are eating the food, that all is controlled by the mind. So he wants to study how the mind is allowing the people to function in the real world. And James it was popular, but its popularity fades. Now the Gestalt perspective. The Gestalt school were founded this Gestalt perspective. Now, this school emphasizes that perception is organized into wholes. Means if you want to solve any problem, if you want to see the problem, you should not see the smaller part of the problem. You see the whole parts. A very good example is when you open your book, you see the index now in which all the lessons are given. So that is the whole part. So this, according to them, we should not see the small part of the problem. So, for example, if you are facing any problem, and you sometimes it happens now that we are facing the problem and we are not able to solve it. So, what mistake we generally do? We see the only the problem part, but this perspective said if you see your problem as a whole, in the whole scenario, so then you can solve the problem very easily. So, for example, if you are seeing this square and this circle, you are not seeing only the dots, but what you are seeing, this square and this circle is a collection of the dots. So it means seeing the things as whole. Now, behaviorism. This school is very famous school of psychology, and this school originated with Watson, Skinner, who disregarded mind as a matter of study and stressed that psychology should study only observable forms of behavior. So according to them, if we should psychology should study only observable form of behavior, means which we can observe what is going in our, what mind is processing, what is going in our mind, and what mind is processing. We cannot see the things which mind is processing. So they said they should keep, psychologists should ignore the covert process. Covert process means what is happening in the mind, and they gave more importance to the study of behavior and what activities animals and humans engages. So they emphasize on conditioned responses, learned behavior, and animal behavior, and they have done various experiments. Like Skinner has done experiment on very famous experiment. He has done on pigeon. Take a Watson on rabbit also. So they have emphasized on conditioned response. If we condition some response, and how one person should learn the behavior, and how the animals can learn the behavior, how the people can learn the behavior. And after it, Pavlov, he was also a very famous psychologist whose studies of digestion won him the Nobel Prize in 1905. And Pavlov has done a very famous experiment on cat, concluding that stimuli other than food may produce saliva, and this led him to study conditioned reflex in detail. So he has done a very famous experiment on the cats, and then he find out if we can shift the stimuli, natural stimuli, to other stimuli, and it can produce salivation. For example, if you are bringing some meat and bringing fish to the cat, if you the cat usually saliva. So he has done a very good experiment on it. So next is our psychoanalysis. This perspective was founded by Sigmund Freud, and Sigmund Freud focused on this happened first time in the like in the field of psychology, that he focused on our unconscious mind. So you all have seen the iceberg in the sea. So if you see the iceberg, you can see some part of it is some part of the iceberg is in ocean, some part is outside the sea, and some part is like within the layer of the sea. So he said the part which is inside the sea, which we cannot see, that is our conscious mind. He compared our mind with the iceberg, and he said that the part which you can see of the iceberg, that is our conscious mind, which everyone can see, and the part which is lying with the sea layer, that is our subconscious mind. So he said it is not like you can study the only the conscious mind, and you can see only the behavior which you can see, and you can find out the problem behind the problem of if nervous disorder and stress and the other problems. You see, for finding out this, you have to see the unconscious mind of the patient. So his very famous free talk and dream interpretation therapy was very famous at that day, and he has actually cured many clients from dream interpretation and free talk. So he believed that our urge and our drives are expressed in behavior and thought. What our drives are, what our drives in our mind are expressed in the form of our behavior. We used to behave, and what we have in our unconscious mind. So there is a very big role of unconscious thoughts, memories, and feelings in our life. And he has done various experiments to prove that, and he has cured many clients. There are very famous movies on the Freud also. You can see to understand more about the Sigmund Freud, and that movies are very interesting. You can find on the Netflix and other channels. So, and Freud has also influenced many psychologists like Carl Jung, Adler, Horney, and Erikson. Erikson theory was very popular in today's time also. You as a psychologist student will also study this theory later. So, and many projective techniques which are today, which we are using to cure the patient, are based on the our the Freud idea of unconscious thoughts and memory. So when you see, have you seen the game like one word association? You have seen in the Coffee with the Current show and many other show, like you, if you are saying some word, and it is a game also. If I am saying some word and you have to say some other word, which at that time comes into your mind. So these are the projective techniques which let our unconscious mind to speak in our behavior. So this psychoanalysis. Now next is cognitive perspective. So cognitive perspective gained importance in 1960 and focused on memory, intelligence, language, problem solving, and decision making. And this perspective views human mind as an information processing system. So as the computer works, like computer takes the input, process it, and that comes with the output. So according to it, our mind works like a computer. We take the information from the environment, we process it, we store some information, and then we give the output. So major contributors are German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, who started the study on memory by investigating the formation of association by learning serial list of nonsense syllable, English psychologists who study the cognitive and social processes of remembering. So, and in the when we are talking of the cognition, it includes all the activity like thinking. It is actually meta concept, and it includes all the activities like thinking, perception, problem solving. So all these activities. Now, humanistic perspective. So, a humanistic perspective was given by the Carl Rogers and the Abraham Maslow. And this perspective emphasizes on the person's sense of self, like to understanding self. So, a person need to enhance the understanding of self in order to achieve his ideal self. Carl Rogers has said that there are two selves. One is yourself and the other is ideal self. And what is ideal self? Which we want to become. For example, I am a student who is studying in the BA program and I want to be a teacher. So this is yourself. Understand our challenges, to understand our problems, then you will become self-actualized. And if you will become self-actualized, you can achieve your ideal self, or vice versa. If if you have achieved your ideal self, that means you have done the process of self-actualization. So these were the different approaches which help us in understanding the development of study of psychology. So now we will move towards the other part of the lesson. One approach is left, one or two approaches left. Okay, so this is socio-cultural perspective. The main focus is on social and cultural factors. Okay, so as the name is suggesting, socio-cultural perspective. So the main focus is on social and cultural factors that influence behavior. And it is very important to do research from this perspective, because what we are today, what is our personality today, our personality has the influence of our socio-cultural environment, our social norms, our cultural norms, our ethnic identity. So, and they have also find out that Western culture are primarily towards individualization. They focus on individual. But our culture, the Asian culture, the Indian culture, we primarily oriented towards collectivism or interdependence. Like we prefer, we interdependent on each other. We are dependent, you are dependent on our parents, we are dependent on our parents, on our kids. So there is a culture of interdependence. But in Western society, the Western society is more moving towards the individualism. Okay, like after marriage, I think mostly like kids used to move from their family and they want to live in alone. So social psychologist Leon Fastinger proposed cognitive dissonance theory that states that a person is aware at some level if she or he act inconsistent with her or his belief, attitude, or opinion. So this is socio-cultural perspective. And next is evolutionary perspective. And this is the inspired by the Charles Darwin theory of natural selection, which refers to adaptation to the environment. So, if we are more adaptable to the environment, if we can adjust in the environment, then there are better chances of our survival. And if we have better chances of the survival, this will also pass to the future generation. Okay, for example, during the time of the hunter and gatherer society, when there was a primitive society, people avoided wandering into dark and unfamiliar places because they have the fear of the darkness, or at that time they were living in the jungles and the animals used to visit the jungle at the night. So the same fear of darkness was passed on to their offsprings, and still to this day we are afraid of the darkness. So David Burke is one of the main founders of evolutionary psychology. The biological perspective, it is concerned with the biological basis of behavior and mental process. The of psychology, or you can say the scope of psychology. So we will see in this what are the subfields which you can take while pursuing the psychology, or what are the different scope of psychology. So first one is cognitive psychology. So as the name is saying, cognition. So cognition is about human mind, about thinking, remembering, perception, learning, problem solving. So this cognitive psychology, in this we study about the human mind, our the human mind procedures, like how we think, how we and treatment of mental disorder. So when you can see the way there are various clinical psycho, there are various clinic of psychologists, and people used to visit these psychologists when they have some problem, when they have some behavior problem, when they have some mental problem, and when they so they used to visit the mental health center. And these clinical psychologists are in they have their own clinic, and there are various hospitals in which different mental health centers are there. So this is one of the sufferings of the psychology. Other is counseling psychology. So particular attention on the pupil emotional, social, vocational, educational, development, organizational concern. So in counseling psychology, the psychologists used to counsel the students, the a common man, the parent sometimes. For example, now according to the order of the government, every school must have some counselor. So why the counselor is being there? Why there is a need of the counselor? Even the private universities have the counselor. There are online counselors because the students are facing various problems nowadays. They are facing the emotional problem, social problem. So the counselors used to listen their problem, used to find the solution of the problem, and they also do the counseling like which vocation should they take. So they in this also there are many various fields. So next is environmental psychology. So it considered the relation between people and their physical environment. Ki how we are fitting into our physical environment and which physical environment is best to us and how we are connected to the nature. So this is environmental psychology. Now experimental psychology. So experimental psychology is very famous. In this, we do the experiment and it explains how to conduct psychological experiment in a controlled laboratory setting using scientific method. So in whatever the experiments logical psychology, this field examines the relation between brain and behavior in human and animals. Impact of the nervous system and glandular system on behavior is the focus of the physiological psychology. So, what field is usually doing? It is seeing the relation between the brain and the behavior. Okay, how we are behaving, how brain is giving us the direction, and how brain is making us to function. So this is this relation between brain and behavior. Now, organizational psychology. Nowadays, many organizations are hiring psychologists, and there is a separate branch of organization. So in Ignou also, if you will do the like MA in psychology, you will see there is a different like subject to choose of organizational psychology. Matlab, there are different subjects and you can choose one subject is organizational psychology. So many nowadays, almost all the organization are hiring psychologists, and what they are doing, they are just applying psychological principles to work settings to see the well-being and the performance of the employees, so that the employees are will not get stressed. They are taking care of the well-being and they are finding new methods through which the performance of the employees can be enhanced. And these psychologists use various psychological tests to select and place employee in the jobs they are suited for. So when at the time of the hiring the employees, they are also making various tests to see if whether the employee will be suitable for the job or not. Now the social psychology. Social psychology studies group of people, their relationship to one another, their characteristics, attitudes, beliefs, their decision making process, and communication with other members of the group quotient, etc. So, social psychology deals with if we are behaving in a certain manner. Okay, so he tries to find out why we are behaving in a particular manner in society. Okay, our behavior changes when we are in a social group. Our behavior changes, and there are very famous experiment in the social psychology. So the emphasis is to understand the which are around us, which make us to behave in a particular manner. So social psychology see these things, studies group of people and the relationship to one another. Now, developmental psychology. The developmental psychology is concerned with behavior across the whole lifespan, from the birth of the child, or we can say before the birth of the child, when the child comes in the womb of women. So that is beginning from the childhood, and it's see up to the grave, like cradle to the grave. Developmental psychology goes from cradle to the grave, and the development psychology see how the behavior pattern changes across different development changes at the time of infancy, at the time of childhood, at the time of adolescence, then adulthood, and then old age. So they try to examine any behavioral disorder that occurred during childhood. So there, when we read about developmental psychology, we will see there are various principles of development psychology, and it is very important to read. So we can also predict about the growth of a person. Now, community psychology. So this community psychology, it is a new area of psychology that deals with community problems and principles, social issue, and health issue, like the problems of the community. Psychologists help the people living in one community to deal with their problems, seek out their traditional forms of psychotherapy, stress, child rearing, for psychology. This is a very new area actually, and this focus on the psychological aspects of the sport behavior. And they sport psychologists work with professional teams at college level, school level, national level, international level, so that these sport person can enhance performance in the sports by working on exercise, teamwork, and if they have some issue, if they have some stress. So these psychologists used to solve their problem, used to calm them, used to enhance their performance. Health psychology. Health psychology is an emerging area, and this is concerned with the physiological processes, behavior, social factors which influence our health and illness. These psychologists work in clinical settings and are involved in research and teaching in higher educational institutes. Forensic psychology. So, it is a very new field in psychology that applies psychological principle in the area of criminal justice and legal investigation. You know now when the in body, when some person is not naturally died, so his body is sent to the forensic department to see what is actually happened to him. If there are some accident cases, if there are some murder cases in that. So the forensic psychologists work on the rights of the victim. What is the right of the victim? Rights of the accused, criminal profiling, policy making, and other related areas. So forensic psychology works in this area. So these are the basic subfields of psychology. So till now we have studied about what is psychology, definition of psychology. We have tried to understand the definition of psychology. After that, we have studied about the various perspectives of the psychology, the various schools of the psychology. Then we studied about the scope of the psychology, or we can say the subfield of the psychology. Now we study the research part, research in psychology. So, for the research in psychology, there are some steps which we have to follow. So, first is problem. If you want to do research in any subject, in philosophy, psychology, or in any other subject, first you should be curious about some problem. Okay, there should be some problem. For about that, you want to do research. For example, a researcher might be interested in studying whether exposure to more screen time, like the people are spending more time on the screen, either the mobile, computer, television, tab, it makes children vulnerable to inattentiveness and decrease in school performance. So we want to study how the screen time is impacting the children performance in school. So this is our problem. Okay, impact of screen time on the school performance of children. This is our problem. Now, after that, what we will do, we will do the review of literature. That step is not mentioned here, but we will do the review of literature. We will do what is review of literature? To study the important studies, important researches, important books which have discussed about the screen time or the school performance or about this problem. So from that we make the hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is the tentative solution of the problem. We make the hypothesis like yes, we make the hypothesis like that. Yes, screen time will make the children more vulnerable. No screen time will not decrease the performance of the children. So we make hypothesis like this. Then after doing the research, we test the hypothesis. Whether the hypothesis which we make at the beginning of the research is right or not. Then we do the interpretation and conclusion. We see our hypothesis is accepted or rejected. So then we will find the conclusion. If our study is qualitative as well as quantitative. If quantitative, then quantitative methods will be employed to analyze the data. Then we will report the result. So there are various methods of research in psychology like descriptive, experimental, correlation. In descriptive, we will have case study, survey, observation. So case study is like case study, means in-depth study of any person, group, or event. So the case study is the in-depth study of any unit. This unit can be a single person. This unit can be a whole office. This unit can be a one group. This unit can be an event. This unit can be a whole school. Okay. So in a case study, nearly every aspect of the subject life and history is analyzed. Okay. Case study means to know each and every aspect of the subject. to see the pattern, to see the causes of the behavior, why the person is doing like that, how this school is doing. So it is used in various fields: psychology, medicine, education, anthropology, political science, social work, ethnography also. Okay, so there is a very famous study of ethnography study of Meenakshi Thapar. If you will see, Google it, you will see very interesting, very interesting study. Now the survey. Survey, I think you should know the survey. Many people have come to your home to know about something. They usually said, okay, you have to fill that form. They usually ask about your family. So what is that? That is survey. It is a data collection tool used to gather information about individuals. The car? Do you have the bike? Like this. So it takes the factual information individuals, and it also takes the sometimes it also takes the opinion of the survey takers. Okay, what do you think? This is better or this is better? This coffee is better or this coffee is better? Like so, it involves asking participants a series of questions to learn more about a phenomena, such as how they think, how they feel, how they behave. Such tools can be very helpful for learning about behavior, condition, traits, or other topics that interest researchers. Next is observation. In psychology, the observation method is a technique used to study human behavior by observing and recording a subject behavior without interacting with them. Means just to observe and to record the observation and then to find out the problems in the issue. And it can be used in variety of settings. For example, a researcher can observe the whole class. Okay, what is happening in the class? A observer can the person on which he is doing the observation, they also know, okay, that this is a researcher and this is doing the observation. And non-participant, in which the person is non-participating and maybe the class on which he is observing, they do not know. Effect relationship, that there is a cause and what is the effect of that between different variables. Okay, so variables are of different types like independent and dependent. For one example is given at like whether sleep deprivation impairs performance on a driving test. If you are deprived from the sleep, if you have taken less dependent variable, and there are other type of variable also. So next is correlation method. So this is a type of research design. So like we have completed the lesson 1. Okay, from next class we will study the lesson number 2. So thank you to all of you. Namaskar.